Hello, everybody, and welcome to Local Edition. I'm your host, Ben McCain. Our guest is Torrance Councilman Tom Brewer. Councilman, always a pleasure having you on the program. You just returned from Washington, D.C. What did you learn?
I learned that the federal government doesn't have a budget. I don't know how they're operating. I learned that the buzzword now in Washington is regional cooperation between the cities and best practices. So we're trying to do that in our city.
And you've got a project, a forensics lab, that will involve the region. Tell us about that.
Actually, we have quite a few projects we took back to Washington. One of them was the South Bay Forensic Laboratory, which will be housed in the police station in the city of Torrance. But more and more police agencies are finding it harder to get their DNA evidence analyzed by the LA County Sheriff. And by having a regional forensic laboratory in Torrance, it'll help all the South Bay police agencies get their information from us.
And is that going to happen?
Well, we're looking for the funding, and that's what we went back for Washington, was to get funding from Washington to help us with our projects. Because they were regional projects, we were hoping they'd buy into that. We don't have an answer right now because as of today, we don't have a budget in Washington, but we're hoping that that gets some traction, and I think it did with the agency staff members that we met with. I think that has a lot of traction, and I think it will get funded eventually.
And what other projects were you promoting?
Well, the other thing we were promoting was the Regional Emergency Operations Center, which we'd like to build in the airport at Torrance. This will help all the cities in the South Bay if there is a catastrophe like we had in Japan a while back. The airport makes perfect sense to put it there because if you're looking for relief, that's where they're going to be bringing it into. And to have an emergency operations center that will serve all of the South Bay, it just makes sense to put it there, and it makes sense to get some funding from Washington for that as well.
And so you just got back from D.C. where there is, it's amazing that they're even making things work now. They're, like you said, the budget, they don't have a budget. You come back to the city of Torrance and you're dealing with some big budget issues too.
We are.
What's going to happen here in the South Bay with the budget for the city of Torrance?
Well, as the revenues come in, we have to make some adjustments to what the revenues are. We're looking at the sales tax from the last quarter of 2010. We need to make sure that that's in line with what our projections are going to be. If they're not in line with the projections that we have, we're going to have to make some more cuts in the city of Torrance.
And where will those cuts come from?
You know, we have to cooperate with the employees and the residents to figure out a balance between those two groups to make the cuts. It's going to be a painful time in the city. We've had a lot of cuts in the past year, and I'm hopeful that this time around this will be the last set of cuts we have to make.
But it's my understanding, though, that the City of Torrance employees seem to be much more cooperative than some of the other employees in other cities and other states. I mean, I think the people in Torrance realize we're going to have to do something to keep the city going.
We've been very lucky. The employees have worked well with us. They made some concessions. We have some pension concessions from the employee groups. We have a two-tier pension system now from the groups, and that's going to help us a lot in the long run. Unfortunately, the short term, though, means they're going to have to do some changes with either the programs we have or some of the salary structures that we have in the city. You
were just reelected to another 4-year term. This is not the best of times to be a politician, is it?
No, it's not. There's just it's been a tough year since I was reelected last year with the budget cuts and everything that's been happening with some of the other cities in the Southern California area. It's been a tough time.
It's not as glamorous as everybody thinks it is it?
No, it's not. It's a long week with very little thanks.
Torrance Councilman Tom Brewer, thank you very much for joining us here on Local Edition. I'm your host, Ben McCain. HLN Headline News will continue after these messages. Don't go away.